A good time to start the story of the Comstock Lode is around the 1830s and 1840s, when the explorers from the United States first started coming out this way. The two that I am most familiar with are John Fremont and Kit Carson. They passed through this area in the 1840s on their way to California. They discovered, or rather named, Pyramid Lake. Fremont met Chief Truckee on either this expedition or the next one in 1845. Chief Truckee and his family would play an important part in the history of the Paiute tribe and the area around Pyramid Lake. On January 15, 1844, Captain Fremont and his party, being tired and worn out from a long journey through harsh deserts, were treated to a fish feast by their generous Paiute host. The Paiutes offered them advice on how to follow the Truckee River, which I believe would have led them over Donner Pass. But they went south towards Bridgeport, then back north close to Genoa, then back south again, and then crossed the Sierra Nevadas near Carson Pass, where they found Lake Tahoe, and then followed the American River to Sutter's Mill, where they recuperated before continuing on their way towards Southern California. From there, he returned back east following roughly the old Spanish Trail, which follows very closely the modern-day Interstate 15. A couple years later, Fremont returned and the Mexican-American War broke out. He became instrumental in winning California for the United States of America. Some say it was a coincidence he was in California when it happened. Others say it was planned from the beginning and the first expedition was just to spy out the area. Either way, Chief Truckee fought alongside Fremont and received papers from him saying he was an excellent guide. He kept those papers with him until his death and were very useful for him throughout his life. So, around 1848, California was in the possession of the United States. Before that, it was claimed by Mexico, and before that, Spain. Here are the Native American tribes that lived in the area. And in 1848, gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill in California. And with the discovery of gold, immigrants began to cross the country through the various immigrant trails. The California Trail mostly followed the Humboldt River towards the Carson Valley. The Carson Sink is where the Humboldt and Carson River drain, or rather disappear into the ground. The trail east of here is comparatively barren, but the Humboldt River provides some water. One of the worst parts of the trail in Nevada is around the Carson Sink because there was virtually no water source. When the immigrants got through this area, they arrived in the Carson Valley, which was comparatively fertile. In addition, it was the last good place to rest before crossing the Sierra Nevada range. Traders for immigrants had many outposts here and traded, or as some would say, swindled the immigrants as they finished crossing the vast deserts of the West. A common practice was to trade tired and worn-out animals that had crossed the desert for fresh animals for the final leg of the journey. The traders could then rehabilitate the animals with more fertile grass in the area and sell them next year to the next group of travelers. One of those traders was Colonel John Reese. Colonel John Reese came from Salt Lake City early in the spring of 1851 and built the first building of a permanent character. Although some claim the first actual settlement was in Dayton, which is much closer to the Comstock Lode. Colonel Reese bought the land on which the town of Genoa now stands, with the farm adjoining, from Captain Jim of the Washoe tribe of Indians for 2 sacks of flour. This first structure was a large log house covering an area of 45 square yards. Genoa was known as Mormon Station, a name it continued to bear for some years. And currently there is a state park with this name.